In different parts of the city, several people were suddenly kidnapped. Some were taken from their cars, others from the streets, and others during their daily routines. A woman named Leah woke up in a dark room and saw a man lying unconscious on the bed beside her. She quietly stood up, looked around, and opened the door. She found herself inside a long hallway of a large house. She called out, but nobody answered. Leah walked through another doorway and found two men lying unconscious on the floor, confused and panicking. She went to the main entrance, but the front door was locked. She tried every handle and window, discovering that the windows were sealed with solid brick walls. She went down to the basement to look for an exit, but all possible ways out were blocked. Realizing she was trapped, she had a panic attack and collapsed on the floor. After a while, Leah regained consciousness and found a man kneeling beside her. He introduced himself as Father Duffy. Around them, the other kidnapped people were waking up. There were 9 of them in total. The group gathered in the main living room, looking around at the unfamiliar mansion. Suddenly, a man's voice came through hidden speakers. The voice said that they had not been chosen for who they were, but for what they were. It told them that they were part of a game, a test of human character, and that they were being watched through 75 cameras and countless microphones placed around the house. The voice said that the last person alive would win $5 million and be set free. Then the voice disappeared. The room filled with shouting as everyone argued about what they had heard. Some believed it was a joke, others thought it was real. The idea that only one person could survive caused panic. Jay, a police officer, pulled out a gun from his pocket and held it up to show everyone. He explained that the kidnappers had left it with him, which meant the situation must be serious. The others were shocked and scared. Albie, a young rapper, grew angry and accused Jay of being corrupt like other cops who had hurt his family in the past. Francis, a musician, said that the mysterious watcher clearly wanted them to kill each other. Jay agreed that it might be true, but added that even the last survivor would probably be killed in the end. He suggested that instead of fighting, they should work together to find a way out. Jay proposed using the heavy dining table to break down the front doors. Everyone helped except Claire, who sat aside, smoking and watching. They slammed the table into the door repeatedly, but it did not move. Jay fired his gun at the bricks near the window, but the bullets only left small marks. The group spread out to search the entire house for hidden exits or weak spots. Jay used an iron bar to dig into the basement floor, but metal blocked the way beneath the tiles. Albie climbed to the ceiling and broke through a wooden panel, but it was also sealed shut. After hours of searching, they found nothing. Claire opened the liquor cabinet and started drinking. When the others came back, Jay took the cabinet key from her, saying that alcohol would only make things worse. They sat together and talked. Everyone swore they didn't want to kill, but they admitted that desperate people might do anything for money. A sudden sound came from the kitchen. They followed it and found a dumbwaiter lift delivering plates of food. Each person received 1 piece of chicken and 1 potato. They carried the plates to the dining table, and Father Duffy led them in a short prayer before they began eating. During the meal, they introduced themselves properly. Duffy said he was a priest. Jay was a police officer. Leah was a dancer. Claire was a professional tennis player. Francis was a musician. Cynthia was his wife. Albie was an aspiring rapper. Max was a French fashion designer. And Shona was a recovering drug addict wearing an ankle monitor from parole. Shona's ankle monitor gave the group hope that police might track her location. Leah mentioned that she didn't eat meat, and an argument broke out over who should take her portion. Jay exchanged his potato for her piece of chicken to calm them down. Albie complained that being trapped had made him miss an important meeting with a record label. When some doubted his talent, he rapped a few lines to prove himself. After dinner, the group discussed sleeping arrangements. There were 5 bedrooms with 2 single beds each. Father Duffy took 1 room alone because of his priesthood, and Francis shared one with his wife. The remaining 6 people picked their partners at random. Jay shared with Leah, Claire with Shona, and Max with Albie. Everyone went to their assigned rooms. Claire became angry when she caught Shona going through her bag, and the two argued loud. Max hung his jacket neatly while Albie lay on his bed practicing rhymes. Father Duffy prayed quietly in his room. In another room, Leah and Jay talked about their lives. Francis told Cynthia that the money was tempting, and she looked disturbed by his tone. During the night, Jay suddenly woke up to the sound of movement in his room. A shadow attacked him, and he struggled with the intruder in the dark. Leah shouted for help, and the attacker fled before anyone could see who it was. Everyone ran into the hallway. Jay held his gun tightly and demanded to know who had attacked him. Accusations spread quickly, and Albie became the main suspect because of his earlier anger. The argument turned racist, until Father Duffy stepped between them and ordered everyone to return to bed. By morning, the house had grown unbearably hot. The thermostat kept rising, and sweat dripped from everyone's faces. Another argument broke out about the temperature and about whether the watcher was controlling it. Suddenly, they heard noises coming from outside the house. Engines, voices, and metallic sounds. Believing that the police were nearby, the group rushed to the front door. They screamed, banged on the walls, and begged for help. Jay fired his gun into the air. The noise outside slowly faded until there was silence again. Everyone stopped shouting. The realization that nobody was coming to save them broke their hope. Jay handed over the liquor cabinet key, saying there was no point in staying sober anymore. Everyone except Jay, Leah, and Father Duffy began to drink. Music started playing. Albie switched it from a slow song to something faster, and the group began to dance and laugh drunkenly. Meanwhile, Francis slipped away to his room carrying a bottle of liquor. He muffled the sound with blankets, smashed the bottle, and carefully saved the glass shards, hiding some above a door frame and others in the toilet tank. In the living room, Cynthia and Albie were still dancing. When Francis returned and saw them close together, he exploded with jealousy. He attacked Albie, shouting that his wife was being unfaithful. Cynthia tried to separate them, but in the struggle, Albie pushed her by accident. She fell backward, hit her head on the railing, and died instantly. Everyone gathered around her body. Jay pointed his gun at Albie, who begged that it was an accident. Jay locked him inside his bedroom by pushing an iron bar through the door handles. The group carried Cynthia's body to the basement and covered her with a sheet. Later that day, everyone sat in silence. Francis found Cynthia's lipstick, applied it, and kissed the mirror. The others avoided speaking to him. At dinner time, they found that the dumbwaiter had delivered only small portions, just potatoes, no meat. The heat was still rising. Albie shouted from his locked room, demanding his food. After pressure from the others, Jay brought him a tiny piece of potato. Father Duffy protested that it was unfair and wanted to give him more. Jay ran after him, but Duffy had already opened the door. Albie burst out of the room, grabbed the iron bar, and attacked Jay. He struck Jay repeatedly in the face until he stopped moving. The others screamed and backed away. Realizing what he had done, Albie retreated and locked himself back in the room. Jay lay bleeding on the floor. Father Duffy knelt beside him, and with his last breath, Jay handed him the gun. The group took Jay's body to the basement to rest beside Cynthia's. Later, the dumbwaiter delivered extra food and a bottle of wine. There was a note inside that said, "Good work." Only Leah and Father Duffy ate together at the dining table. The others ate separately in silence, too paranoid to sit near anyone else. Francis carried food to Albie's room, saying he didn't blame him for Cynthia's death and believed it had been an accident. A while later, Leah and Father Duffy checked on Albie and found him dead, hanging from the ceiling with Max's scarf. When Albie's body was discovered, the group gathered again in the living room. Francis insisted that Albie must have taken his own life, but the others accused him of killing Albie for revenge. Max pointed out that the scarf used for the hanging belonged to him, and he demanded to know why it was used. The argument grew violent until Father Duffy shouted at everyone to stop. He told them that more fighting would only lead to further deaths. The group fell silent and walked away in different directions. Leah and Father Duffy carried Albie's body to the basement, laying it beside the others. Upstairs, Francis sat alone, applying more lipstick and staring at himself in the mirror. Later, Claire caught Shona touching her bag. Their voices rose as they cursed and accused each other. The fight escalated quickly. Claire pushed Shona away, and when Shona came back at her, Claire grabbed a corkscrew from the counter and stabbed her in the neck. Blood spilled, and Shona collapsed to the floor. Claire froze, staring at what she had done. In another room, Leah was washing her face when Francis appeared silently behind her. Without warning, he ripped the light fixture from the wall and dropped it into the sink full of water. The electricity shocked Leah, and she fell to the floor, motionless. Francis left the room and shut the door. Meanwhile, Father Duffy went to speak with Max in the kitchen. He told him that he only trusted Leah and wanted to work together with him to survive. Max agreed at first, then asked for extra food as payment. Duffy refused, saying it wouldn't be fair to the others. Max ignored him and reached for more food. Duffy pulled out Jay's gun and ordered him to stop. Max dropped the food but glared at him. While they argued, a scream echoed from the hallway. Duffy and Max ran out and saw Shona's body lying near the door. Claire stood nearby trembling. She said it was self-defense. Duffy ordered her to come with him so he could lock her in a room until things calmed down. As they walked past another hallway, Duffy noticed Lee's open door. He looked inside and found her body on the bathroom floor. He knelt beside her and began to pray. Claire used the distraction to slip away down the corridor. Francis came out of his room, pretending to be shocked at what he saw. Duffy pointed the gun at him, accusing him of murder. Francis smiled and taunted him to pull the trigger, but Duffy hesitated. Francis kept talking until Duffy finally fired once. The bullet hit Francis in the stomach, and he fell but was still alive. At the same time, Leah regained consciousness. She was weak but breathing. Hearing the gunshot, she crawled out of the bathroom and hid in another room. As she stumbled, she knocked over the toilet lid and saw glass shards hidden inside the tank. She picked one up carefully and held it in her hand. Downstairs, Claire entered the kitchen looking for food. Max was already there eating from a pot. When Claire demanded her share, Max told her he would only share if she gave him something in return. He took off his belt, looped it around her neck, and began to choke her. She struggled and kicked at him. Father Duffy entered and pointed the gun at Max, shouting for him to stop. Max refused and tightened the belt. Duffy fired, killing him instantly. Max dropped to the floor, and Claire gasped for air. At that moment, Francis appeared from behind Duffy and stabbed him in the back with one of the hidden glass shards. Duffy fell forward, and the gun slid across the floor. Francis picked it up and shot Claire. She fell beside Max. Duffy, bleeding on the floor, begged Francis to stop, but Francis turned the gun on him and shot him once more. The house fell quiet again. Francis dropped the empty gun and laughed. He shouted at the ceiling, calling out to the watcher and claiming victory. He demanded his money and yelled that the game was over. Upstairs, Leah tore a bedsheet into strips and tied one around the glass shard to make a handle. When she moved the toilet lid, it slipped and crashed onto the floor. The noise echoed through the house. Francis stopped shouting and listened. He realized someone was still alive. Holding his wounded stomach, he slowly climbed the stairs. Leah heard his footsteps and crawled under the bed. Francis entered the room and looked around. He noticed the fallen lid and saw movement beneath the bed. He reached down and grabbed Lee's ankle. She kicked him and stabbed his leg with the shard, cutting deep. Francis screamed, and Leah ran for the hallway. She reached the balcony, but Francis followed, limping and furious. He charged at her, and both of them toppled over the railing. They crashed down onto the dining table below. Leah landed on top of him. When she looked down, she saw that the shard was buried in his chest. Francis gasped once and died. Leah crawled off the table, trembling. The house was silent. Suddenly, the front door unlocked with a loud click. The door opened, letting in a bright white light. Leah walked toward it slowly. A large bag sat on the floor just beyond the doorway. She opened it and saw stacks of money inside. She lifted the bag and stepped through the doorway. Behind her, the door closed and locked again. Leah followed a long corridor to another identical house. Inside, she saw several people sitting on the floor, each holding a bag of money. They stared blankly at her, pale and exhausted. Leah realized they were previous winners of the same game. She stood frozen as the sound of another door closing echoed through the hall. The camera lingered on her shocked face. The house lights dimmed and the screen went dark.